Hi everyone, this is Krista Soria, just providing you with some additional insights into your data set today and helping you to learn a little bit more about how to analyze what's a pretty large data set overall. So just a quick walk through the data. I've got about 1,000 cases, and we could think about each line being the equivalent of one person. So everybody has an individual donor ID number, and you could think of that as like a social security number or a student ID number. We have the individual's current age, their academic major, when they graduated, looking at donations by different years, and then their total donations or contributions. If they attended one of these different reunions, if they attended a baseball game, athletics were mentioned in one of the interviews, and so I just chose baseball as an example. And for any of these where you might see a 0 or a 1, the 0 means that they did not attend, and then the 1 means they did attend the event. The contributions to the blog is numeric, and so sometimes you might see individuals who've contributed to the online blog, 4 times as an example. If they were mentioned in an alumni magazine or if they were interviewed for an alumni magazine, I added that as well, and that's just kind of something that I made up. If they contributed to research, whether that's in the forms of publication, scholarships, or other funds, I just said that would be something that would be of interest as well. Their current occupation and then their yearly salary. Now with data like these, it can be difficult to just sort of, grab a couple of different elements of data and create graphics in Excel. Excel likes to work a little bit like this, where you might condense things down into English majors, psychology majors. Here they contributed $500 total, and here it's $1,000 total, and you might be able to kind of group that together. Excel works really well under this capacity. Excel does not work well if you have current data like this, which is exactly what we have on the other page, right, where each line is the different major, but we've got folks from many different majors, right? So there's, as an example, about 100, Native American Studies students or whatever there are. But Excel loves it when you can condense things for them. When that doesn't happen, so as an example, let's create a very quick line graph here. And what we want it to do, right, is to condense all the English majors and all the psychology majors into groups and then average those and mean those. But Excel doesn't work as nicely as we would like. So in some cases, we have to do a little bit of the legwork. So here we might total or sum the English majors and the psychology majors, right? And, we might have to do some of that legwork for Excel, but there are some, because, ideally, right, this is sort of what we'd like to have, is like English versus psychology majors, sort of nicely condensed. So Excel has this great feature, which is called pivot tables, that can enable you to condense some of that material very nicely. If you highlight all of your data, and do that by clicking in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little arrow there, and it just highlights everything. Under Insert, click on Pivot Table, and everything is all selected for you. You don't have to mess with this one, just click OK. And within this pivot table, because I'm recording this using GoToMeeting, I have to move my little browser around a little bit, so it's going to be a little on the clunky side as I go through this, sorry. But under Pivot Table on the right-hand side, you'll see all the different categories, right? So each one of these represents one of the columns in the data set. So as an example, if we click on academic major, and you have to highlight the little box, click on academic major, we can see that Excel moved that into rows for us, and we can also see we have all these rows here. I'm more of a and see, you can see where everything's been condensed, right? So instead of having, 300 lines of English majors, you now just have, we're going to count all the English majors just as an example. And a way to do that too is to sort of take those data and then also move them into values, which can help you to quickly count that information too. And so to quickly count the number of majors without having to look and, count every individual row, on the right-hand side again in your little toolbar, click on academic major, and move that down to the sum of values. And here we have an automatic count of all of the academic majors. So we see there's 3 history majors, 52 English majors, and so on. So that's pretty slick. These pivot tables work pretty well. There are some tricks to pivot tables as well. So let's say that I want to look at the 2015 donations by academic major. So I'm going to move, and I just highlighted it and moved it right into rows, but I'd actually like to move that over to values. So again, we see sort of the count, right? The number of contributions. If I click here on the count of the 2015, and if I click on value field settings, and I change this to average, for example, we should get, yep, and this has changed things a little bit, but we've gotten here as sort of an average number of donations by academic major. So sociology majors on average contributed about $692, psychology majors $908 in 2015, and so on. And you could do this for every academic year. And again, I'm just moving this all over to values. I'm going to remove that there. Anytime you sort of highlight something, it's going to move over into your rows. But I'm just adding these here. And then that second step is, don't forget it's counting, but you have to click on value field settings because we want the average. I've got to scroll down one more time. Okay. And now we can see sort of the average, number of donations, and we can move these around a little bit to reorder them so they can be in year. So I'm just going to move the 2015 down. So now we have 2013, 2014, and then 2015. And so that could be kind of a nice way to sort of synthesize your data. And if I wanted then to make a graphic of this, it's a lot easier, and Excel sort of understands kind of what it is that you want, right? Here could be, and this one's a little messy, and I would probably make some definite changes to this, right, to make it look a little bit better. But, this could be one way to sort of think about, creating a data or a graphic, just as a very quick example where everything has sort of been condensed. There's lots of other things, right? So we did look at academic major, but maybe we want to look and see if attending a dinner has any, maybe desired effects on scholarship or donations received. So again, for the dinners, 0 means you did not attend, 1 means they did attend. And yeah, across the board, right, there's some definite differences with those who attended the differences having, really significantly higher contributions overall. If you wanted, you could take the step of sort of averaging these rows or counting up those rows and maybe doing some quick summation here, or even some averaging, right? So I just highlight this, move that over, and then on the upper right-hand side under Auto Sum, I've clicked on Average. So on average, those who did not attend a dinner contributed about $290 compared to those who did attend a dinner contributed about $1,400. And so are dinners effective? Yeah, maybe, right? And when it comes to a recommendation could be host more dinners, right? They can't be that expensive unless there's maybe an open bar or something. But it seems like that might be one area where we might have some significant impact. So there's a lot of sort of ways of using those pivot tables to, to really think about kind of analyzing the data to see if there's any potential effects. One last thing that I'm going to take a look at is maybe occupation, and just to see if maybe some individuals who work in some fields might have more or less donations than others. So that might be another way. I've got these kind of left over. That might be another way of analyzing the data by occupation. You could, and beyond their contributions, and I'm just going to go in and remove some of these contributions, but you might also, and I'm just kind of starting over here, want to look by year, by their age when they graduated. Gosh, even a quick academic major by individual's occupation might give you, and I'm just summing that up here. Oh, that did not work. Sometimes that's a little tricky. Sorry about that. I'm not doing a good job. I'm going to pause the video. Hold on. Okay, so what I was thinking about was looking at academic majors and then learning if we have differences in their yearly occupational salary. So perhaps there's some different, majors that we'd want to target that may have a higher income than others. So man, these chemistry students, right, with on average $150-some thousand of income every year, they might be a really great population to sort of, think about reaching out to in terms of potential donations. And if we think too, not just about academic major, but if we also look at maybe occupation, are there folks who, and I just again clicked on occupation, it moved right into rows for me, and then we've got these data. Are there some alumni with specific occupations that we may also want to reach out to as well? Because if they have a higher income, they may be more likely to, contribute. Some of these retirees, I'd just put them as zero income. They've got retirement income certainly, but so are there some folks from different occupations that we'd like to reach out to? All of these findings, I think, should really help you to make some great recommendations moving forward, some very tangible action steps that can be undertaken within some really specific timelines. Many of you had recommended, collect more data. Well, imagine now this is their data, right? They've collected it. So take us to the next place, which is, okay, now that we've gotten the data and we've analyzed the data, what are our recommendations going to be because of those particular data? So I hope this helps just a little bit. I will share there's some additional really neat options in pivot tables where you can filter. So if you want to look at just like 3 academic majors, you can unselect. Let's say I want to look at these 3. It will sort of just filter it down to us just for those particular groups. And I spelled archaeology incorrectly in one case, which is why it looks like there's 2 of them. Sorry about that. But, so there's lots of great features that Excel has that will help us to condense the data and will help us to better understand when we have trends or when we have big findings. And then within that, it's really simple then to create some graphics representing these data as well in a way that is not possible to do sort of using this current set of data. So I hope that pivot tables have helped a little bit. It's a little sophisticated in some of the software programs that I utilize, which include like SPSS, for example. I don't often, there's sort of a nice tables feature that will create pivot tables for me. So I personally don't have a lot of experience with pivot tables, but they're pretty sort of overall easy to use. Just, anytime you click on something, it's probably going to end up in a row for you. If you want to remove things, just click on Remove Field. And then don't forget to change under the value field settings, change it to what you want it to be. So the sum of things, total, like let me just remove this one. Let's go back to just one more last example and then I'll stop. Academic major, right? So we have academic major by, let's do 2015 donation. And I'm going to move that over into values. So we have the sum, right? So that's their total donations. Add it all up. We have the count. So how many donations did we see during those academic years? And we also have our average, which is, the average per person. We would also have, if we want to do a max as well, because that might tell us sort of who our biggest, where we're getting like the biggest donations. So interestingly, with that max, right, for Native American studies and for physics, we're seeing, and also for art history, we're seeing the highest gifts. In other words, it may just be a handful of individuals, but we've got some heavy hitters who can donate a lot of money in those particular majors. And again, though, and even looking at that and learning that quickly might lead us to say, we've got a couple of really wealthy donors in these groups that we may want to sort of reach out to more specifically, right? So that min or that max feature can be very helpful. And there's a minimum. It's probably just going to be 0 for most. Yeah. Looks like except for history, the minimum was $250, but everybody else was $0. So lots of fun things that you can do with a lot of these data. But don't forget to go in and sort of change those based on what you might be interested in reviewing. So I hope that helped just a little bit, folks, in terms of looking at ways of kind of condensing all of your data into a really easy to utilize format, and also condensing the data into a nice, tight format that Excel can utilize to develop better graphics for you. Because again, it's not possible to use this entire spreadsheet as it is to create data, but under pivot tables, it will kind of condense all of your data for you. So I hope that helps. Please let me know if you have questions. Lots of great Excel resources are online. If you Google pivot tables in Excel, there's great tutorials and lots of good stuff out there to help you sort of learn a little bit more about this particular tool. So thanks everybody. Have a great day.